So let's get started with our new project. So let's go to our directory where we code, and let's make a new directory as router X for our example. No. Let's make it as a Django project. Shit. I guess I'll first remove it. Okay, so our Django product feels like created. Okay, now let's create our app. Comments. Oh, sorry. Okay, now let's open everything up with Visual Studio Code, and I want you to go to the website named as davedocs.io, and inside of davedocs.io I want you guys to install the documentation of Django REST framework. You can also go to the official site, but I'm gonna use it. And inside we got to the tutorial and the ViewSets and routers, where we are gonna study about the default router that we are gonna talk about. Now, one thing to remember about default router is that it only works with the ViewSets. A ViewSet is not just a regular API view. A REST framework's ViewSet is actually a set of one or two views, one or two functions that can, rather than just a single one. As you can see, it can be split up. It is the same snippet ViewSet and snippet ViewSet and snippet ViewSet. It can be used with various methods to perform various functions, and that way we have to just add this much lines of code, but routes just makes our work a bit easier by just adding one line of code instead of this much, instead of these 3 or 4 lines, and this one looks much more tidy. Meanwhile, it looks much more tidy. It also have a bit of limitations that it doesn't remain explicit anymore. This, if any bug happens behind the scenes, you won't be able to get that how that happened. So it is still preferred that you use the class-based views and make your code as much as explicit as possible, so that everything that is going wrong, that can be under your control. But still, if you are well experienced enough and you know that no kind of bug would happen, then I'm just pretty sure just go ahead with snippet ViewSet. It's a bigger it just saves your hours that you use to write that code. So the first thing is that we have our views here, we have the models. Now let's associate our routes to it. What we gotta do is to add a REST framework as an application at the top of the settings.py inside of the main directory of our project team. So inside of our apps, we want to create our first model. So let's name it as comment. This model is going to be our application is going to be a simple comment IO. It would have a comment. A comment has its body, that is, let's call it as the text field, not choices. And when it was commented, it's supposed to have a date time as well. Models dot field, and then a user who just did, usually you would add it like models dot, it is the usually foreign key, and then auth dot user. That is the standard way to add it, but since we are not gonna tamper with login and auth, we can just write it as dot text field. This will just do the stuff. So our model will just contain 3 keys, and since our model is no longer be an OOL, we are using a REST framework, and everything is gonna be serialized. That is, it is gonna be exposed as JSON. It is gonna be converted as JSON. So we are gonna use a serializer. So let's first import our model comment and then serializer. Let's just copy paste it to save our time. So what do we get here? This line of code from rest-framework.serializer. We're gonna import serializers, and then let's copy the code for the serializer that is defined here. I can write it as it is because I know it, but I'm using the documentation just to show that everything is just written there. So that is how a serializer is defined. You must be knowing. So let's make it our comment serializer, and the model instead would be comment, and the fields are a bit changed. You can write the fields individually like text, date, user, but since we are using all fields and nothing is excluded, so I'm just gonna add all. Okay, so our fields are hereby defined. Let's create our views now because we are done with the models and serializers. What we are this time gonna use a generic view set that is provided by our REST framework. Why should I do the typing? I should just copy the paste because that's what pros do. I just don't need this shit. I'm gonna just use our new view set technology that I call as the model view set. So let's see, where is it? This line, and below it gonna be this line. And the REST framework.ViewSet requires two things. One is the query set attribute, and another is the serializer class. That's not in because my Pylance is not working well, so I'm just copying and pasting it from here. The best practice is that you create. The best practice is that you create a virtual environment first, and then add the Pylance settings to it so that everything just is shown perfectly. Anyways, so when we there are two attributes. One is the query set, that is all the objects that a model has. So first let's include our model and serializer from here. Everything is defined in the serializers. Since model is imported into our serializer file, so we can just import it from there, and the comment serializer is just defined there. So here in the serializer class we have the comment serializer, by which it is gonna serialize the data every time the API is hit, and query set is an attribute that returns all the contents of a model. So how we define all the contents of a model? By model and then an object and then all that returns all the contents. So that our view set is now complete. Why I'm saying it as a view set and rather than just a view is because it contains multiple views that can be used instead of a single view. So now what is left is that we create a router. So let's make it as routes.py. It's not eligible for me to use the routes.py, so we not created it. It is not required as well, but I just use it. The best practice is to add that in the urls.py. So let's create our urls.py instead. And inside of urls.py again we are going to copy paste our code as we learned by examples, and there we go. So we don't need this and we don't need this. Okay, so from REST framework.routers we are going to import a new class named as default router. The advantage of default router is that whenever we give it a generic view set, just remember what I'm saying. I'm not saying it as a class-based view or something. A generic view set that is defined inside REST framework.viewsets class. It only works with view sets. So whenever we give it a view set, it is gonna generate various URLs for us for each of this create, retrieve, update, and delete process. So we don't have to worry about that. All it takes is first is we just create it, and now this router object needs to just register our URLs to it. register. So first what we are gonna do is to register. We are gonna add here the base URL of it. So it is gonna start with comment, and then we add our class-based view. That is, I'm gonna import our class-based view. That is comment set. I guess I just spelled that one wrong here. That is not stupid ViewSet, it's comment ViewSet. So in the URL.py, what we are gonna do is to have our comment.ViewSet, and yeah, everything is set now. We are gonna include it here, but yeah, that's the same thing. We are gonna include it as the path, and then we can add a base URL like comment slash, and then we could include the routers here. So by that we are completed. Now it's time that we assign our application to our main. We are gonna add our application to it as comments.apps.comments. That's how we add our application. Let me just see the spelling perfectly. So that comments config. Okay, and we are gonna add the migrations. So migrations off. Okay, so that's done. So it's high time that we test it out. Our whole application is now done. I would like you to install an extension called as Thunderbird that is required for all the REST related. It's ThunderClient. Thunderbird is for mailing. An extension called as ThunderClient. It is same as using Postman. I'm gonna install it. I don't know why people still use REST client or something. It's not even used. ThunderClient is the best. So let's run our application. By server, or maybe it's start server. I just forgot the name. Oh, it's run server. Server is running at port. Let's go to that port. Good. Oh, I haven't added the URLs yet. So we're gonna add our URLs. Like we're gonna have our include function, and here I'm gonna have our new path. Let's make it as just a slash. I will leave it as it is, and our app name comment. So there we go. We got comments.urls. Let's go. 404. Okay, so we got our comment. That why we got nothing here is because inside of our comments.urls, if we see, we have added router URLs. Sorry, we have added all the URLs after the comment, and inside that comment there is going to be another comment because we added that in the path as well. So as we got a new comment, as we can see. what we did, we added the path to the comment, and here we are supposed to get all of our comments that are included into the URLs. Add path. Let's remove it. Now it is perfect because it was on the slash comment. Now we are getting the comment list directly, so we didn't got any data before, we just got it. So let's can't we do a post request here? Oh, we can do a post request here. So all it takes is a text, that is, we can just add something, and here it requires the date. Let's check today's date, and then there's time, like 11 a.m. p.m. and the user is Ryan. So let's create our new data. We got our data. So let's get all the comments. We will get a list of all the comments here. So you won't get maybe this way. Let's use the extension called as Thunder Client we just installed. Yeah, there we go. So it's gonna have a new request. So we are gonna have our local host, it's HTTP, or I don't need that also. Comment slash. Let's get a get request here, and we will get our comment. So let's create a post request and create a new comment here. Where the first is the text, and then comes the user, and then comes the date. I don't know what is how date is defined, so I'm just gonna copy paste it this way. Okay, so let's send it. 201 created. 201 created. You can see you don't even have to manage the status message as we have to do with perfect function based routes. So let's go to our query and let's get. Now one thing to notice is that when you just go to the URL comment, it will load every URL you created so far into the database. To look into that is called as the retrieve process. It is the list, sorry, it is called as the list method. We are applying the list action. If we are going to apply the retrieve action, so we are going to see a particular date by its primary key, which in this case is ID. If I'm going to see the text and all the stuff of the third of this third object, then all I'm going to do is into the URL I can add 3 and send the request to it, and the router. Where is the router? Yeah, here. The router we created so far, what it did, it created different URLs, different routes, that when I add a primary key after the comment, it is gonna load that particular object. I'm gonna do nothing. And if I gotta delete it, I'm just gonna send the request to it and add the ID after the URL, send it, and see 204 no connect. It is deleted successfully. Now if I have to get every data that is available, I can get it this way. The third is deleted. And if I'm going to update the text of 4, I'm going to use the put method for the 4, and then I'm going to send a request. Internal server error because there was no body. Fine, this way. Add a slash. Oh, sorry, slash was required also. So now the text is ffgs. If I add it this way, then let's add some text like hello world, and let's see the get request of what 4 is. It is the same thing, and it's wanna see every data that is represented. Let's see, it's hello world. That's how routes work with ViewSets to make our work not a little bit but much more easier. I hope this was thankful to you. I would ask you to read this once and tell me if any problems come. Thank you.